How was everybody's Thanksgiving? Did you eat a lot of turkey? Did you get take a nap afterwards? I did not. So if you did, you're very lucky. But we're back. So glad you guys are here. Today is the finale of our series we've been in called Advent. Everybody say Advent. Good job. You're here. All right. And today we're going to be talking about an emotion that I think can be sometimes hard to pinpoint, right? It's an emotion, though, that God has for us in abundance, right? It's an emotion, too, where we have to be connected to the correct source. Real quick, go to Luke chapter 2 for me. We're going to mix this up a little bit. That night, there were shepherds staying in the fields nearby, guarding their flocks of sheep. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord appeared among them, and the radiance of the Lord's glory surrounded them. They were terrified, but the angel reassured them, "Don't be afraid." He said, "I bring you good news that will bring great joy to all people." Everybody say joy. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And joy is something where if we want to have joy, we have to cling to the source. We have to hold tight to where we are to find our joy. And speaking of holding tight, I want to introduce you guys to my friend here. His name is Charlie. This is Charlie, named after Hurricane Charlie. So, here's the story about this guy right here. So, if you don't know, Hurricane Charlie was a hurricane that came through Florida like in 2004 or 5, something like that. And it was pretty bad, some of the damages, right? This is actually some of the damage in my parents' neighborhood where I lived at the time. You know, power lines down, there were tree branches knocked over, trees knocked over, all of that. It was terrible, right? And right before Charlie came through, this was Charlie. Me and my sisters, we put him on a pole, me and my sisters, as a joke, you know. We were like, let's put him here. Let's see, our bets were, how far is he going to go? You know, or are we even going to be able to find Charlie when this is all over, right? So this was Charlie before. This is Charlie after. No joke. You guys saw all the branches down, all the trees down, right? He clung to that pole through the whole hurricane. It was crazy. We couldn't believe. We were looking out during and saying, "Oh, there he is. He's still there. He's still there. He's still there." It was amazing. We were like, how is this possible? He clung so tight to that pole, right? He was holding tight. And that's the way we have to cling tight to the source of where we find joy. The way Charlie clung to that pole during the hurricane. So joy. What do you guys know about joy? Anything? Well, joy is a fruit of the Spirit, right? So joy is one of those things too. I don't know if you guys know this. Joy is mentioned in the Bible over 300 times, either joy or rejoice. And joy is one of those things, too, where we can confuse it a little bit with maybe what happiness is. Like, when you think of joy, what do you think of? Do you think of, hey, how you doing? I'm so happy. I'm joyful. So you think of somebody like jumping up and down with like energy, right? I'm so excited. That's what we think of with joy. And it can be that. It can be. But that can also just be happiness rooted in something other than true joy, right? It's important we know the difference because happiness is mentioned, I think, in the Bible maybe 30 times. I don't know if you know this, which is a lot less than 300, right? Happiness is one of those emotions it's fleeting. It's like, oh, I was happy. Bye, happiness. Yeah, bye. It's gone, right? Maybe it'll come back. We hope it'll come back. Maybe we can make it come back, right? But joy is constant. Joy is like a state of being. Joy is always being content. It's always being untroubled and unworried and at ease no matter what's going on. That's what joy looks like when you have it in your life. Joy can be grateful also. If we focus, though, on only seeking our happiness without it being rooted in real joy, we run the risk of maybe compromising some things, right? Think about this. Who plays sports? Yeah? Play on a team, right? If you're only worried about padding your own personal stats, right? How many points you're getting, how many goals you scored, whether it's soccer, baseball, football, anything, right? If you're only worried about that, that can make the rest of the team suffer. That can make everybody else fail. But your main concern is yourself, so what do you care? You want to be happy. That's the risk we run if we don't know the real source of joy. When happiness is rooted in the wrong things, it can lead us to having almost like a self-seeking nature, right? We don't care if we maybe hurt somebody on the way to seeking or pursuing our happiness. We care less about how it affects others. And to an extent, we can kind of control if we want to be happy, right? Because there's ways you can find to be happy. Happiness has multiple sources. If you don't like something you're experiencing, you can leave and go experience something new. Right? If you don't like somebody who's being mean or negative to you, which is oftentimes maybe somebody holding you accountable for something you've done wrong, you can go find somebody to talk to that's going to make you feel better. But then you run the risk of finding somebody who might want to positively reinforce a sin. Might want to reinforce, hey, you're doing okay, do you? You happy? Yeah, all right, you're good. We run that risk when we're not seeking joy in the right source. Because happiness has multiple sources, but joy only has one source. Everybody say, joy has one source. And wouldn't it be amazing if we knew that one source? If we knew where to go to experience true joy? It would be the best thing ever if we knew how to find it. That thing that makes us happy, glad, unworried, and at ease. Here's a few spots in the Bible where it mentions joy or rejoice. It says, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider an opportunity for great joy. That was James chapter 1, verse 2. And then Philippians 4, verse 4, it says, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. That's twice. Paul says it in one verse. There's something there, right? And if you read these, and so many others like this in the Bible, to me, I don't know about you guys, but it sounds to me like joy is a choice. Joy is something we can choose to do, something we can choose to have. Hey, we're going to go now into a little bit of tag time, a little tag talk, and I want you guys to talk about that. What do you think about joy? Is it just a feeling that you can find somewhere else besides the one source, or is it a choice that you can make? Let's talk about that now. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, okay? I heard some great answers. I heard video games. I heard being grateful brings joy. I heard sugar. That was my favorite one. Sugar makes me joyful. I like it. All right, yeah. All right. So, like I said before, joy sounds like a choice, right? But it's a much more difficult choice if we don't know the source, right? If we don't know who we're supposed to find our joy in. I'm going to be real with you guys about myself. Joy for me is a daily battle. I am just naturally wired to be pessimistic and overly analytical, mainly of myself, right? You're never going to meet a more critical or a more self-deprecating person on myself than myself, okay? Joy is a fight because in my flesh, and that means without God, I'm weak. And the Bible says that about all of us. Right? In our flesh, we are weak. Without God, we are weak. But it says here, joy is our strength. Go to Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10 with me. It says this, and Nehemiah continued, go and celebrate with a feast of rich foods and sweet drinks and share gifts of joy with people who have nothing prepared. This is a sacred day before our Lord. Don't be dejected and sad, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. So joy builds us up. It keeps us going. It keeps us fighting through the everyday battle of spiritual warfare against the enemy. And we have an enemy that Jesus tells us who comes to steal, kill, and destroy us. And if you have an enemy, he's going to go after your strength. So if our joy is our strength, then the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy our joy. He'll do it through our own self-condemnation, right? We mess up. What do? Oh, man, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said this to them. Man, like say somebody makes you mad. They're like, yo, man, your style is so skibbity. Is that? Yeah? Is that how that goes? That's right, Josh, right? I mean, you come back with, yeah, well, your Riz is so Ohio, bro. You're like, Sigma, yeah. Is that what you guys say? I have no idea what any of that stuff means. I hope I've said that right. But anyways, right? But then you think about it later, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was messed up. That was so messed up. Woe is me. You guys say woe is me. I know you do. But hey, listen, when we recognize when we've done something wrong, guess what? You can have joy in guilt. I know, it sounds weird. Joy in my guilt? You want me to feel joyful about feeling bad about something I did? Yeah, here's why. Listen, the reason why Nehemiah is saying this to the Israelites here in Nehemiah 8, he's saying that, because right before that he says, don't be sad or dejected, right? Why are they sad? Because they're hearing the word of God being spoken to them, and they're all feeling repentive, and they're feeling terrible about what they did, and they're all weeping, right? They're all sad, and then Nehemiah is saying, okay, that's good, but listen, this is taking place during the Feast of Tabernacle. The Feast of Tabernacle is a time where we celebrate God. We celebrate Him bringing the Israelites out of the desert after 40 years and helping and how He provided for them. So He's saying, listen, weep you can feel sad about your sin, but also you cannot wallow in your sadness and in your despair. Now, part of the repentive part is getting up and changing that action, but you can't change that action unless you recognize the sin. So when we sin, we can have joy in our conviction and in our guilt because that means God is doing a good work in us. That means God is moving in us when we have conviction and sadness in our guilt. Our sin might be big, but God is bigger. There's nothing He can't do for us if we go to Him. He can bring us out of all of our sin. He can bring us out of darkness. He can work like a lighthouse. You guys know what a lighthouse is? Right? It provides light on the water for sailors at night when they can't see anything. It's like, whoa, hey, don't come here, right? In the pitch dark, they can see that light. It brings them out of darkness. That's what joy can do for us. You ever thought about this? I don't know. I was thinking about this in Luke chapter 2 when the angel comes, the angels, and they show the glory of God in the middle of the night, right? You think, well, that makes sense. You want to see that light from God, right? But did you know also there's, in the book of Acts, I think it's chapter 26, King Agrippa actually, in the middle of the day, he's a king on the road, and he sees the glory of God shining brighter than the sun. It's like noon, right? And it's brighter than the sun. He can see it clear as day. It's totally separate. He knows it's there. So God, in actuality, He didn't need to do it in the middle of the night. And on top of that, the people who he chose to reveal this joy to, the shepherds, these were men who were going through really oppressive times because they were taxed, overly taxed by the Roman government. They were there for a census. They had to be there so they could pay taxes, right? So they're going through sort of a metaphorical dark time, being oppressed by the Roman government. You guys know how taxes work? You get like $10, right? Your parents say, oh, we're keeping 5. And also give 2 to your little brother, your little sister, right? Tax collectors. That's how taxes work. That's what they were going through. That doesn't sound cool, right? Overly taxed, overly oppressed, all of that stuff. And so God decides to reveal this joy to a group of men going through dark times in the middle of the night in the darkest hour. Why would He do that? He really didn't have to. I like to think that He did this because it's His way of saying there can be joy in darkness. Everybody say joy in darkness. We can choose joy in darkness and in uncertainty, but we have to choose it. And we have to know the right source to choose it. And I know we've been talking about the source. What's the source? What is it? I know you're all dying to know, right? You got to know. You want to know what that source of joy is. I bet you have no idea, right? You have no idea? Here it is. Jesus is the only source for our joy. Crazy, right? Sounds like a given. I know. It sounds like, well, yeah, obviously. But there's so much more to that to unpack. It doesn't just mean like, oh, I'm sad, I'll think about Jesus, which is good. Or I'm sad, I'll talk to him when I need him, you know. There's so much more there. But what that statement is, Jesus is our only source. Let's go to John chapter 15. Now, where Jesus is talking to the disciples, starting in verse 4, he says, "Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned." I need 2 volunteers from each side. Leaders, I'm going to let you pick them. Two people each side for something real quick. We got 2 on this side. All right, 2 more. All right, guys, come up here real quick. All right. Take a basket. All right. If you're holding a basket, you're going to be on the end. If you're not holding a basket, stand next to me. Yep. Now stand like this next to me with your feet touching my feet. Spread them out a little bit. There you go. Basket holders do the same on their feet. Touching my feet, touching mine. There you go. Stay close. All right. Now, I'm going to hand you a fruit. Pass it down. Put it in the basket. Very simple. Yeah, there you go. Put it in the basket. All right, now, take about 3 steps out from me. 1. If you have to curve in that way. If you have to go that way, that's fine. All right, now, grab the fruit. You went too far. I'll give it to you, though. All right. A little harder, though, right? You got further away, so it's a little harder. Now, take 2 more steps out, away from me. All right. No leaning, no jumping, or no throwing, sorry. Nothing like that, all right? Ready? Reach for him. Come on, almost. Oh, she got it. You were out of reach, man. Do you guys get the point here? The vine, the branches, you were too far from the source for the fruit. Give me a hand, guys. Give me a hand. That was it. Thank you, sir. No, these are for my children. We have to be willing to remain close to Jesus in order to maintain joy and to produce that fruit of the Spirit. Because without him, we won't produce it. We won't have joy continually in our life without Jesus. It requires actively choosing Jesus so we can cultivate joy in our lives despite struggles. In verses 9 through 10, Jesus says this: "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love." So Jesus says, as the Father loved me, so I have loved you. What's that mean? Jesus loved his disciples according to the way the Father loved him. That means he guided them. He protected them. He showed them the right way to go. He sacrificially served as a way of showing how he loved the disciples and the way he loved all of us and still loves all of us. And in order to remain in this love, we have to keep his command. And what's the specific command that Jesus says? He says it in verse 12. He says, "This is my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you." Right before that, in verse 11, he said, "I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete." So what that means is if we don't follow the commands of Jesus, we won't stay connected to Jesus. If we're not connected to him, it means we can't remain in his love. And if we don't remain in his love, then we cannot experience the fullness of joy that he promises. If we're not obedient, then we are not joyful. Jesus says, stay connected to me by remaining in my love. And you remain in my love by obeying the command I have given you. And the command that I have given you is to love one another as I have loved you. It's really simple. To stay close to Jesus, love each other. Show love the way Jesus showed love to us. It's the best way to be close to Jesus. We have to choose. We have to choose him, and we choose him because he chose us first. In verse 16, he says, "You didn't choose me. I chose you." And he chose us even though it cost him everything. He went to the cross for us, even though it cost him his life. Mostly the words that we think of when we think of Jesus going to the cross is pain, it's agony, it's suffering, it's torment, all of that stuff. I don't think anybody really ever thinks that it was joyful for him. But did you know it was? In Hebrews 12, verse 2, it says, "We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne." Jesus went to the cross with joy because he was not only fulfilling what the Father sent him to do, but he also knew what it meant for us. His joy was in knowing the complete joy that we would have with him. He gave up himself so that we could have joy and we could be close to him forever.